Pada tahun 1998, ada seorang lelaki yang bernama Agus yang telah datang ke Malaysia dari Indonesia. Dan pada masa itu, beliau memiliki sedikit dadah bersamanya.
I was thinking at that time, the prosecution wanted to have 2 bites of the cherry. I can't go back. But, I told him come on, your wife can handle it.
Selamat sejahtera dan kembali semula dalam Chill and Chai with Dr. A. Hari ini kita ada tetamu undangan kita. Tetamu ni dah pernah datang dalam episod pertama kita, iaitu Mr. T. Vijayendran. Tapi hari ini merupakan hari yang lebih penting daripada episod pertama kerana permintaannya terlalu tinggi. Ramai orang nak Mr. Vijay, kami nak Mr. Vijay. Mereka nakkan lagi kisah-kisah yang berdasarkan pada crime stories, thriller stories untuk dibicarakan dalam podcast Chill and Chai bersama dengan Dr. A. Jadi hari ini kita akan berbincang pasal satu topik yang berbeza sedikit daripada topik pertama kita di dalam episod pertama kita. Episod pertama kita bincangkan pasal murder ataupun kes pembunuhan. Dan episod kedua ni menjadi satu episod yang sangat penting kerana di Malaysia ini masalah dadah menjadi salah satu masalah yang sangat besar dan sangat sukar untuk diatasi. It becomes very difficult in Malaysia for the enforcement to control in terms of drug usage, drug trafficking and stuff. Jadi, ia membawa kita kepada episod kedua yang mana kita akan membincangkan tentang penyalahgunaan dadah. Jadi, bila kita nak cakap pasal penyalahgunaan dadah ni, actually kita perlu merujuk pada Akta Dadah Kebangsaan. Akta Dadah Berbahaya pada tahun 1954 yang ditubuhkan pada tahun 1954 yang mana akta ini membincangkan tentang kesalahan kita sama ada kita menggunakan ataupun menyimpan ataupun menjual dadah dari segi undang-undang. Jadi ni hari ini kita ada Mr. T. Vijayendran yang merupakan seorang peguam yang sangat terkenal di Malaysia lah. Dan juga lebih daripada itu, beliau merupakan penulis kepada beberapa novel yang saya boleh kata mungkin underrated novels. Yang tidak ramai tahu tentang novel-novel ini yang ditulis oleh Mr. T. Vijayendran. Tetapi selepas mendengar podcast ini, saya actually menyarankan orang ramai untuk pergi dan membeli novel-novel ni kerana novel-novel ni akan memberikan anda pengetahuan yang lebih mendalam tentang undang-undang di Malaysia, terutamanya dari segi murder ataupun drugs dan sebagainya. Mr. T. Vijayendran, thank you so much for coming back again in episode 2. It was a fantastic episode. The previous episode, which is episode 1, we discussed about the murder and then there's so many people who commented and there's so many people who actually praised about what happened to Saravanan after the whole incident happened. Of course, our prayers is all for Gobinathan and his family members. Now, coming to episode 2, today we are going to be discussing a little bit more. I'm going to mix a little bit of English and Malay so that our viewers can understand a little bit better. And they have a different perspective also, do 2 different languages and then they can interpret on their own. Yeah. So, Akta Dadah Berbahaya 1952, maaf. Akta Dadah Berbahaya 1952, which is the Drug Act, Dangerous Drug Act 1952. So, dalam akta ini, this act actually dia telah membezakan antara penyimpanan, penggunaan ataupun trafficking, penjualan, pengedaran dadah. Jadi bila kita nak bincangkan pasal Akta Dadah Berbahaya 1952 ni, lebih menarik jika kita bincangkan akta ini berdasarkan satu kes yang mana Mr. Vijayendran pernah defend in the court of law. Jadi kita akan bincangkan tentang satu kes yang mana kes ini juga merupakan salah satu cerita yang telah ditulis dalam novel bertajuk Ecstasy yang ditulis oleh Mr. T. Vijayendran. Jadi, pada tahun 1998, ada seorang lelaki yang bernama Agus yang telah datang ke Malaysia dari Indonesia ataupun dari Bali, Indonesia untuk tujuan professional, business purposes, and juga datang untuk maybe bercuti dan berehat sambil bekerja. Selepas tiba di Malaysia, banyak cerita yang sebenarnya terjadi daripada saat Mr. Agus tiba di Subang International Airport pada masa itu ya. Subang International Airport, and kedengaran bunyi di dalam kapal terbang yang menyatakan bahawa drug trafficking is a serious offence in Malaysia.
Punishable by death.
Ya, yang boleh punishable by death.
Mandatory death.
Mandatory death. Maksudnya orang yang membawa dadah secara berlebihan bagi tujuan trafficking sebenarnya perlu dihukum gantung sampai mati. According to law in Malaysia.
At that time.
Pada masa itu, iaitu pada bulan Mei 1998, sewaktu kejadian ini berlaku di mana Encik Agus telah tiba di Subang International Airport, dan pada masa itu beliau memiliki sedikit dadah bersamanya sewaktu masih dalam kapal terbang. Dan beliau risau kerana secara tiba-tiba dalam kapal terbang tersebut disebut bahawa death compulsory, death penalty bagi mereka yang berniat untuk menjual dadah. Tetapi di belakang minda Encik Agus, dia tahu bahawa dadah yang dimiliki olehnya adalah bagi self-consumption, bukan untuk tujuan penjualan.
Personal consumption.
Personal consumption. Dan dia memberanikan diri dan keluar di airport, dan sewaktu lalu di immigration, dia lepas dan sampai ke Kuala Lumpur. Bila sampai di Kuala Lumpur, beliau tinggal di Kuala Lumpur, and sesuatu yang lebih hebat terjadi. Sesuatu yang lebih menarik terjadi. Agus yang sepatutnya pulang semula ke Indonesia tidak dapat pulang ke Indonesia. Tell us, Mr. Vijay, what actually happened. Such an interesting story. Such an interesting read, which I've read the whole novel. It's fantastic. I will say, I don't know why this novel is not so famous like Harry Potter and stuff, because the story is so good. And sekali lagi saya nak ingatkan kepada pendengar-pendengar dan penonton di luar sana, tolonglah baca novel-novel yang ditulis oleh Mr. T. Vijayendran, kerana ini bukan untuk mempromosikan Mr. T. Vijayendran, tetapi jika anda seorang rakyat Malaysia yang ingin tahu lebih mendalam tentang law dengan cara yang lebih menarik, because law is not very interesting for you to read. It's mostly about memorizing laws. But untuk memahami dengan cara yang lebih interesting, menarik, bacalah novel-novel yang ditulis oleh Mr. T. Vijayendran. Mr. T. Vijayendran, we move directly to the case. What happened to Mr. Agus?
Okay, what happened to Mr. Agus is he arrived here on the 15th of May 1998. And he was supposed to meet a business partner, which he called him by the name of Frankie or something. So when he arrived at the airport and he was looking around, he didn't see Frankie. So, but one Muniandi driver came and saw him and said, Mr. Frankie is not sorry, he's not able to come, but he has asked me to pick you up and send you to the hotel. He has arranged everything for you. So he got in and he got in the car and he was driven to the hotel. While he was in the airport looking lost, there was another man. His name is Henry. And Henry was looking at him and sizing him up and all that. And when they reached the place that night, Henry approached Agus and said, I'd like to meet you, and became his friend, and then said, let's go upstairs to the discotheque and, we have a party there. So he was there in the discotheque. He had his drug with him. He took one or two and he really felt good and relaxed. So after that, he didn't know what happened. He woke up at the next day, I think, 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. And Henry was there too. And Henry said, I come to my car, I want to show you something. And when I showed him, there were 4 packets of drugs, yellow crystalline substance. So I showed it to him and said, this is what Frankie asked me to show it to you. And Agus knew about that because he said it was freely available in his home country. And so he negotiated how much price. Henry was willing to sell it to him for $500 or $600, and he bargained it to something cheaper, $300. He bought it and went back, and he coincidentally received a call from his wife from Bali. Wife said, Abang, what happened? You have to come back. Our son got some accident or something. So next day he started going back. He wanted to go back. So he got his ticket, and before he went back, I said 4 packets. He put 2 packets inside and, his pants and tied it up, concealed it. And also 2 more he tied it up on his buttocks and wore some loose clothing, and, he went out. When he went past, I think the very few steps, isn't it? He has to pass. First of all, is the ticket check-in. He did the ticket check-in, no problem there. Then he did the immigration. There's no problem there. And then he went to the security scanning and all that. So he knew that, only metals will be alert, isn't it? So he said, this one is nothing. So he went through, and that also lepas. But after, for some reason, there was one very conscientious security officer who is actually what do you call the police bantuan,
yeah.
but he was wearing the uniform of the airport security. He stopped him and asked him, I want to frisk you, body search. So he frisked him and came. He said, hey, apa bonjolan ini? So he said, tak ada apa, ini ubat Chinese medicine ke apa, he said. And he said, ambil keluar. So he put his hand and took it out and gave it to him. This is a new drug at the time. Nobody knows about methamphetamine, And he looked at it, and that guy's name also I remember, Brian, Brian, but his name is spelled on his card like brain, so he's got. So if
that brain of Brian worked that day.
Worked very well. Must congratulate him because he is such a good officer. So he said, anyway, it looks suspicious to me, and why are you hiding it if you have nothing and all that? I suspect it's drugs, he said. So I'm arresting you. He arrested him and said, sent him to the Balai Police. There's a Balai Police in the Subang Airport itself. Handed it over to the police officer there. The police officer took over and then took Agus to the Damansara police station, which oversees the airport, I think. So there at the Damansara police station, they took him, arrested him again, and put him in the lockup. So he was in the lockup, and when he was in the lockup, another officer came and said, I want to do 100% check on you, body check. So take out your clothes, strip yourself naked. So the guy said, what for? I got my dignity, you want to... He said, no, take out. So he took out, when he took out his pants, there were 2 more packets from 2 more bonjolans or whatever, fell down,
At the bottom.
So ini apa? So he said, ini ubat lah, ubat Cina. So then another officer came to record his statement and all. So he decided to tell the truth. He said, actually, this is something I take on a daily basis. You see, I take 3 times a day, take 5 grams, 5 grams, 5 grams. I'm a carpenter, you see. So, I need some. So I take it. It's nothing. It's commonly available and all that, he said. So, they wrote...
Ice is also commonly used. At that time, I'm not too sure. But now also a lot of people actually use it because they don't want to sleep at night.
Yeah.
They want to be focused during working and something like that,
Yeah.
Especially I think lorry drivers and stuff, they take this ice, something called as shabu.
Yeah.
A lot of people
Now that you mentioned, I must tell you, when I was studying law in UK, in 1980, studying law there, and what we do, we stay up late and study, So we can go to the pharmacy there, okay? They call it chemist. We can buy, amphetamine, not methamphetamine. Amphetamine, you're a doctor, you should know. So we just buy and then take and so of course if there's a party or what, lucky we take and go and dance. But this one we take and can stay awake and study till quite late and a lot of things absorb and all that. I shouldn't be promoting drugs here. Get arrested. So it was not a very serious, you used to call it a party drug. So, but methamphetamine is stronger. So that became something serious.
But then coming to when he came to Damansara police station, by law, can the police actually ask you to strip open and check you?
Yeah, it's a drug suspect. He could be carrying firearms and shoot the whole police station down, right?
Yeah. So it is definitely allowed.
Yeah.
It's quite reasonable for you to have a reason to, first of all, detain him.
Yeah.
And then definitely you can strip him and search.
Yeah, there may be other people in the lockup or so. They have to check and see whether what he is carrying, If not, the government will be sued, isn't it? Because putting a dangerous person inside.
Absolutely.
So they're all right. You can do a body search.
Does this happen to politicians also?
I'm not sure about politicians.
So, by right, everybody who is detained and for the suspicious that they have, probably they can just strip open and see.
Yeah.
Okay,
You can
fine.
see, and that's when they discovered this. So, as I told you, they immediately recorded his statement, and there he declared he was, this is I'm not trafficking. I'm just using for my personal consumption and all that, he said. And so they charged him in the next day or so. They charged him because first of all they had to send the drugs to the chemistry department. The chemistry department will go through the thing, and they will use certain machines. First of all, what they do is they take a bit of the drugs. They take the whole thing, one packet, and they will put it inside a blender. Okay, the Sumit blender, which comes from India. It's a kitchen blender, They put it there and they will blend it. Okay, and from the blending, they will take 0.008% and put it into a machine called the gas chromatography mass spectrometry machine. So that thing will go through a procedure inside. They'll heat up the thing, and before they put in that also, they will put in a pure methamphetamine tablet. That's the standard. So from the standard, and then they will see at how it releases the chemicals. And if the one that they are testing also does the same thing, then they will confirm as it is the same drug as the standard, you see. Am I making myself?
But this I read this part in your novel stating that actually you are supposed to get at least 10%. But what happened is they took actually 0.008%.
I asked the chemist, are you aware of Section 37J of the Dangerous Drugs Act that requires you to take 10% of the drugs? At least you must, if there are 10 packets, okay, you must take 10% of the drugs. One was. So I asked him, did you take 10% or not? Because there were some people say you have to take 1% of the packages. Some others say, well, if you take, if there was only one, then you have to take 10% of that one, you see. So anyway, he said, the law tells that requires you to take 10%, but you took 0.000% only. So that itself, your analysis test all is flawed. We don't know whether it is really methamphetamine or what. Your test is wrong. He was smart lah. The chemist said, no, Mr. Vijay, I took 100%, not 0.008%. I said, what? 100%? Your report say you took 0.008%. Now you're coming and telling me you took 100%. I don't understand. Can you please explain to the court? He said, Yang Arif, sebenarnya kita sudah ambil semua and kita sudah buat blending. Bila itu sudah blending, itu sudah jadi homogeneous. So bila satu benda itu sudah jadi homogeneous, kita ambil 0.00% pun, dia sama rata. Everywhere will be the same. Can you?
Yeah, I understand.
Can you explain to your viewers?
So basically, bila kita ambil kopi, kita masuk dalam air, lepas tu kita kacau-kacau kopi tu, sekarang ni, setiap sedikit yang kita ambil pun, konsentrasi kopi tu akan sama.
Betul.
Walaupun kita ambil satu titik daripada kopi tu, concentration dia akan still sama. So apa yang dimaksudkan oleh prosecution side lah, pihak kemis actually yang menjalankan penimbangan, proses penimbangan untuk methamphetamine yang diambil ni, according to standard, berdasarkan kepada Akta 37J,
10%.
10% daripada dadah yang diambil itu perlu dirampas, perlu contoh, jika ada 4 paket, setiap paket 10% kena keluar untuk buat campuran dan penimbangan. Jadi 10% daripada dadah yang dirampas tu. Jadi dalam kes ni, initially it was told that hanya 0.008% jumlah dadah yang diambil untuk buat testing dari segi jumlah berat methamphetamine tu. But then coming back, now all this mostly happen in the court of law. So Agus adalah seorang lelaki yang datang daripada Bali dan selepas tu dia membeli sedikit dadah methamphetamine di Kuala Lumpur daripada seorang yang bernama Henry Tan, dan kemudian selepas itu Agus menerima panggilan telefon daripada bininya yang menyatakan bahawa anaknya tidak sihat. Jadi Agus perlu pulang segera daripada yang di-anticipate actually. He didn't plan to go back so early, but then he had to go back earlier because the son was sick. So he bought a flight ticket and he went to the airport. When he went, he was caught. Masa ditangkap di airport, di lapangan terbang, dia ditangkap dengan jumlah dadah yang ditimbang pada masa itu lebih kurang 200 gram lebih. Dan kemudian dibawa ke Balai Polis Damansara, di mana dia disuruh untuk membuka baju dan seluarnya dan didapati bahawa ada lebih lagi dadah di bahagian belakang tubuhnya yang berjumlah lebih kurang 300 gram. Maksudnya total is amounting up to lebih daripada 500 gram methamphetamine yang telah ditemui. Tapi apa yang menjadi satu persoalan di sini, kerana when I read the book, benda ni dijadikan dua kes yang berbeza, two different charges. One is for the drug that was seized in the airport. The second one is the drug that was found in the Damansara police station. Why would anybody separate this into two different charges? Now you see, if I were to, according to what my little knowledge of law, if I had 100 grams of drug, then I want to separate it into two, 50 grams and 50 grams. As a police, maybe I might do that to the person who I'm catching at the airport to reduce his sentence, two different charges, because the amount of grams that you take, one charge is 50 gram, another charge is 50 gram, because it's different when you catch a person with 50 gram, 100 gram and 200 gram, things like that. I'm not too sure about exact figure. But in this case, you're catching a person with 500 gram. Why did they separate into two charges?
That's a good question. It's very simple, because the arresting officer at the Subang airport was not an experienced, trained customs officer or a police officer, you see. He was actually in charge of securities, and probably he was not even looking for drugs. He was looking for some weapons or something, because they are more inclined to the security rather than this kind of offences. So when he saw the bunjolan in the thighs, he must have panicked. I mean, what is this? I don't even know what is this, So he straight away seized it, arrested him, and sent him to, without doing a complete arrest, a search of his body or give a strip search or what, because he's not a trained customs officer or I think, so even a police officer might have done that. But he was only looking for violent crimes, plus carrying guns and all that, you see. So when he went to Damansara, they did the body search because that was a police officer. And so because of the different locations, they decided to come up with two charges. One, kamu didapati telah mengedar dada sebanyak 300 gram di Balai Polis Damansara. And kamu juga lain in another charge dapati telah mengedar 200 gram atau 300 gram di Subang International Airport, So that's why they had to separate it for clarity, because it becomes more complicated, when it comes to court. Brian, our good friend Brian, the arresting officer there, can only vouch for the one bunjolan in the thighs, which is, you ask him what about the others, he won't know. So it's to make it simple and clear, they brought two charges.
But then, when you catch somebody, the police catches the person, the statement is supposed to be taken when?
Well, normally they take it within the first 3 days or so. They don't keep it for too long. And one more thing you must understand, that when a foreigner is caught, I mean, all over the world also, straight away the embassies are informed and all that. So, they are more particular about not leaving them without continuing action.
But then there were two charges, right?
Yes.
Initially, both charges is of trafficking.
Yes.
Both charges are of trafficking.
Yes.
Now, why this is important, kenapa benda ni sangat penting adalah macam saya katakan tadi, di Malaysia, jika anda mengambil dadah dan pengambilan dadah itu adalah untuk kegunaan sendiri, charges dia adalah berbeza. Compare dengan jika dadah tu diambil bagi tujuan penjualan ataupun trading of the drugs. Jadi sekarang ni kita dah tahu Agus dah kena tangkap dengan polis. There's already two different charges. And kedua-dua jumlah beratnya adalah, satu adalah lebih daripada 200 gram, satu lagi adalah lebih kurang 300 gram. Yang menjadikan jumlahnya sebagai 500 gram. Tapi kita perlu ambil ini sebagai dua different weight. One is 200 lebih gram, satu lagi adalah lebih kurang 300 gram, kerana two different charges. Seterusnya kita akan masuk ke dalam apa yang terjadi di mahkamah selepas a short break. Chill and Chai with Dr. A. Kembali semula dalam Chill and Chai with Dr. A. Ya, jadi selepas Agus ditangkap kerana dua charges yang berbeza iaitu satu ditangkap charges dia adalah untuk dadah yang ditahan di Subang International Airport. Satu lagi adalah jumlah dadah yang diambil di Damansara Police Station. Now sekarang kedua-dua charges ni adalah bawah Section 39B yang membawa death penalty. Seterusnya Agus akan dibawa ke High Court untuk dibicarakan. Kes ni akan dibawa ke High Court untuk dibicarakan. Now persoalannya, kita perlu tahu jenis court yang ada di Malaysia juga. Jenis mahkamah yang ada di Malaysia. Kenapa kes ini dibincangkan di High Court dan bukan court yang lebih rendah daripada High Court iaitu Sessions Court. Kerana di Malaysia jika bawah akta pengambilan consumption ataupun akta pemilikan mungkin boleh dibicarakan di Sessions Court. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Vijay. Tetapi kerana charges ni adalah untuk trafficking, drug trafficking yang membawa punishment of death, mandatory death sentence, ia perlu dibicarakan di High Court. Now, Agus telah didakwa, dibawa ke mahkamah dan Agus telah melantik Mr. T. Vijayendran.
Bukan Agus yang melantik. Kedutaan Besar Indonesia di Malaysia.
Kedutaan Besar Indonesia sewaktu itu telah melantik Mr. T. Vijayendran sebagai peguam bela bagi Mr. Agus. Now kita tanya apa yang terjadi di High Court.
High Court, what happened was trial went on. The arresting officer at the Subang Airport gave evidence, and they asked for a joint trial. Because there are two separate charges, so it was jointly tried. So the arresting officer at the Damansara police station also gave evidence. There were two different chemists. They couldn't check up what happened. Just now, I think we were talking about the chemist's evidence. And when the chemist said, I did 100% because I had homogenized the whole thing. So I asked him, how long did you blend the thing in the kitchen? I mean, this is a kitchen. Every house probably has the kitchen blender, you see. So you use a kitchen blender to hang a man. I mean,
Yeah. It's funny because actually you say the brand is from India.
Yeah, Summit.
The brand Summit, a blender that was used for kitchen use, is used by the chemist to actually measure the actual weight of the drug that was seized.
The quantity and quality. Yeah. So he said, that's what we do. Anyway, we blend it. So I said, okay, if it is not homogeneous and you carried out your analysis on a substance that is not homogenized yet, okay? I mean, I'm sure you know certain drinks, there's salty, one sip there's salt, another sip there's no salt because it's not homogenized, right? So how do you know it's been homogenized? How long did you do? He said, I did it for 5 minutes. So you know it's homogenized. Yeah, I said, it cannot be homogenized, because did you do any tests to confirm it is homogenized? Only if it is homogenized, you can say, I did 100%. Okay? If it's not homogenized, so you need such an important fact. You have to do a test. There are some tests, flame tests and all that, which will tell you it is. You shine some light, you can say it's homogenized, right? You can't just say, I did for 5 minutes.
And I think it is homogenized.
I think it's homogenized. She said, no, I don't agree. She said, I used this 5 minutes was given by the United Nations manual and all that. So how to fight lah? Until today, I think they do it for homogenize. Anyway, in this, coming back to this case, they homogenized it, and they said they homogenized it. They found out that it was methamphetamine, and they charged him with it. Now, there's a little problem here because, under the Dangerous Drugs Act, there are many presumptions, presumptions of law. Under Section 37 DA, okay, they could presume that if you had more than 50 grams of methamphetamine, you're presumed to be a trafficker. You see, they don't have to go and get evidence that you tried to sell or you tried to do this or that. They say, if you have more than 50 grams of methamphetamine, and for different drugs it's different, like for ganja and all is 200. And the others, the heroin and all is, maybe I think it's 15 grams. So methamphetamine is 50 grams. It's a rebuttable presumption. That means the prosecution don't have to prove. You have to prove
that it is not trafficking.
There is no trafficking. You see, but the only problem is when Agus was arrested in May 1998, there was methamphetamine was unknown at that time, so the law was not passed to include this as one of the Section 37 DA presumptions. Ganja was there, heroin was there.
That means Section 37 DA was already there.
Yeah, for other drugs.
Except for methamphetamine.
Except for methamphetamine was included only in September
1998. But Agus was arrested in May of 1998.
Yeah.
So normally when you detain a person or when you catch a person, at the time, whatever law doesn't imply to that person, that can actually be argued in the court of law.
Of course. That law is not that he was not trafficking. The law on the presumption is there only to make it easier for the prosecution. They don't have to go through the rigmarole of trying to prove that one of the 18 verbs in Section 2 of the Dangerous Drug Act, which says trafficking includes manufacturing, importing, exporting, keeping, storing, buying, selling, distributing. There are 18 verbs, So if you don't have a presumption of law, then prosecution must go and prove these things includes. And this is a very complicated and confusing place because although Section 2 says that trafficking includes buying, selling and all these 18 verbs, that is not a definition, because it only says it includes. If you look at the Singapore Act, the Singapore will say trafficking means whatever, buying, selling and all that. But here it says, Malaysian DDA says includes. So when there is no meaning in the book, it doesn't define it, then you have to fall back to the dictionary meaning. And the dictionary meaning says trafficking means illicit trade. Trading in non-compliance with the law. You see, so what the courts had decided is, what the courts had decided is that when you don't have the presumption, prosecution has to prove that he was concealing, keeping or whatever for the purpose of illicit trade. You understand me?
Yeah. But I want to take it a little bit slow here,
yes,
Mr. Vijay.
Please.
The reason is because when Agus was detained and then he was charged under two separate charges for him, 39B, for trafficking of drug methamphetamine. Now, at the time when Agus was caught, 37DA doesn't specify methamphetamine yet.
Correct.
It came about in September of
Yeah, a few
1998.
months later.
So when he was brought to High Court, this is the point that you used there first, actually.
Yeah.
Now, before this, I just want to understand from law perspective, from a lawyer's perspective, when you are defending somebody in the court of law, I see that you have to first of all have the full knowledge about the case that you're dealing with. Secondly, I don't know what you do, but I feel when reading your book and when talking to you, if I am a lawyer who is defending someone, number one, I have to have knowledge about the case that I'm dealing with. Number two, I want to see what are the areas where I can actually defend the person. So for those purposes, I have to have multiple angles that I have to look the case from. Now, looking at this particular case, I saw you try defending Agus, number one, by arguing with the chemist, with the way the chemist did the weighing and checking the quality of the
Using
methamphetamine.
the GCMS machine.
So, using the machine. And in High Court, when you argued about this with the chemist actually said that, they started using, in your novel, they started talking about things that, any layman could actually understand. But then they start talking about the homogeneity of the drugs when it is blended in the blender that was made in India.
Kitchen blender.
Yeah. So when you think that, okay, you can't argue much with the chemist, but then you have to go to next point, because as a lawyer, you have multiple angles that you want to defend that one person. And this multiple angle will actually make the judge think a little bit broader about the whole case and doesn't just judge a person that, oh, he's carrying 500 grams. He is definitely trafficking the drug. He is definitely going to be sentenced to that. Concealing it and then sentenced to that. Now, when the chemist part failed, I would say, when arguing with the chemist, then comes the Section 37DA, which you argued in the High Court to the judge, saying that at the time of Agus's arrest, 37DA doesn't specify methamphetamine. So you can't assume it is for trafficking, because what Section 37DA specifies is that if you are found to be having drug, which is methamphetamine, more than 50 grams, you are already automatically considered as trafficking, unless it is proven otherwise by the defending lawyer. So in this case, you tried using that method. Now, this came about in September. So what did the judge say about this?
Okay, let me clarify. First of all, the presumption cannot be used because methamphetamine was not part of the presumption, not listed in the presumptions. So there was another confusion at this time, because there was a Supreme Court case which is called Tae Gyok Hok versus public prosecutor. There, the court made a decision. Then this was Supreme Court. They said, our act is very, very unique because it defines trafficking. Even if you are concealing, it is trafficking. Even if you are carrying, it's concealing, because that's what the definition is. It lists out 18 verbs, as I told you. So as long as you fit into any of these verbs, you are trafficking. That was the understanding at that time, you see. And later on, just before this Agus was arrested, another federal court case came in and said, Chow Kok Kyong versus public prosecutor. They said, no, you can't just say that just skipping or concealing the drugs is trafficking. We must, because the Section 2 of the Dangerous Drugs Act defines this thing in a way that it says that trafficking includes, okay, as I told you just now, includes these 18 verbs. So because it says includes and it doesn't say means, if it says means concealing, then you can say it is trafficking, but it says includes. So you have to find out what is the meaning of trafficking. The main definition of trafficking is illicit trade. So you must read that thing as if he is concealing or keeping or distributing, or not distributing, keeping with him, concealing for the purpose of illicit trade. Then only it's trafficking, you see. So the trial judge was very smart, I think he's retired now, and I have a great respect for him. His brain was very good in the sense that he said, now definition is keeping and concealing for the purpose of trafficking. Now, we won't know what his purpose was if he was keeping it. We won't know. I mean,
There's no way to know that.
No, we have to infer only what is his purpose. So he said, beautiful judgment, he said, as far as I'm concerned, the 2 bonjolan that was seized in the airport, he was trafficking because he was keeping it and he was free to go into the toilet and meet someone or somebody and sell it to them or hand it over to them and all that. So that is trafficking, he said. And he called for defense, asked Agus to enter his defense for that. But then he said, as far as the
one at the
one
police station.
seized at the police station, he said that fellow was already on handcuffs, okay, and everything was, he can't sell it to anybody in the police station or give it to anybody. So his purpose of having possession of those drugs in the lockup is certainly, even though if he had intention of trafficking in it earlier, is no longer, he no longer could have had the intention to traffic because it becomes an impossibility, right? So he said, I'm reducing the police station drugs to mere possession under Section 12(2) of the Dangerous Drugs Act. Okay? But the drugs that were seized at the police at the
Subang
International Airport, I want you to enter your defense on trafficking. So right now, this guy had to enter his defense on one charge. The airport is trafficking and the police station was just mere possession. Mere possession under 12(2) carried at that time 5 years in jail. That's a maximum. He could have got about 2 years or 3 years even. But
so now one is 12(2), another one is 39B.
It was amended by the judge. So when it was amended by the judge, that's what we call prima facie evidence. That means the half time of the trial, At half time of the trial, the judge will decide whether there is a prima facie case. And if there is a prima facie case, he will ask the accused to enter his defense. And so he will normally postpone the case so that we can discuss with his lawyer and all that, what I should do now that he has reduced this. So, okay, we went back and came back a month or two later.
But then it's always funny to me because when you have 2 different charges, right? One is death sentence. Another one you're jailed for 5 years. How does it make a difference? The guy is going to die anyways.
Well, it's not over yet.
Yeah, I mean, according to the charges, right?
Yeah.
If I'm caught by the police and I have one which is 12(2), another one is 39B, what is this 12(2) the sentence is for 5 years. It doesn't make sense. I'm going to die anyways. It
Yeah,
doesn't
but-
make me happy in any ways.
Yeah, but how can you say before the case is over whether he's going to die or not?
No,
He's not
that's where the
convicted.
magic happens, where the lawyers come in
Yeah,
and
lawyers-
starts defending. It's amazing when I see how lawyers defend.
Yes. You
To
know,
my knowledge, lawyer T. Vijayendran lah. Because I've read your
there
novel.
are some very good lawyers in Malaysia. This comes there anyways. Experience, they as you get more and more experience, and lawyers get creative. There's so many things, they can think of, and it was in this case. You asked me just now why there were two charges, one for the airport and one for the police station. I was thinking at that time the prosecution wanted to have 2 bites of the cherry. If they make a mistake with the charge in respect of the airport, then they still have this other charge.
Another
So
one.
they only want one death sentence, right? I mean,
Yeah.
So maybe they wanted to get 2 bites of the cherry. I don't know. But anyway, we went on. The judge called for, gave
The
time.
judge has reduced
He reduced
one of the charges
the
from 39B
police
to 12-2.
lockup was reduced to 12-2.
The other one still remained
Still
as
remains.
39B.
Yeah. So then we had a lot of meetings. I go to the prison and make appointment and talk to him.
How is Agus's feeling when he got to know in trial the judge has reduced one charge but the other one remains 39B? This is the same guy who actually received a call from the wife
Yeah.
stating that the son is not
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Now he is stuck.
He's stuck.
What was he feeling at that time? How does it feel to meet the person? These are people who are actually going to death sentence. I mean, of course, you are defending him in the court of law, but then at that time, that was the charges. Was
You
death
know,
sentence.
I saw one movie recently. It's a Malay movie, Banduan. Have you seen it?
Kaidi's remake in Malay. Yeah.
So Banduan, that fellow was jailed for 10 years, And his wife also, I think he killed his wife or something for some reason. I don't know. But anyway, he was in jail. And his daughter was growing. He was born after he went to the jail, you see. His wife was expecting. Anyway, when he was coming back, they informed his wife was in the welfare home and word got to her that somebody is coming, your father is coming to see. And she would say, father, I never had a father. Where suddenly is coming from? So he wanted to go, but there was a lot of things involved stopping him because the police used him to catch some other bad guys.
Yeah,
you
because they didn't have a lorry driver to drive the lorry.
Yeah.
So they needed...
yeah. Anyway, let's not stray too much. I was just telling you, asked me how is the daughter feeling and all that. What was he? What would you ask me?
No, what was the feeling? First of all, is your feeling going and meeting Agus after the judge said that I can only reduce one of the charges to 12-2. The other one remains as 39B. Secondly, Agus, the guy who was supposed to go back already to meet the son, how does he feel at that time?
Yeah, of course, lah. He was not happy. I mean, he took it as fate, lah. He can't go back. But I mean, I told him like, come on, like your wife can handle it. She got brothers, others. So anyway, that was handled, and so what? He had a lot of confidence in me at that time because I'm not. Somebody who's coming to do a free thing for him. I was appointed by the embassy who was paying me well. And he knew that. I mean, embassy won't go and pick up somebody who... So anyway, I told him, you already informed the police. You already informed the police that it is for your personal consumption. All right? And therefore, we can get you out. Don't worry. So what happened was, he came and pleaded guilty to the
12-2.
12-2. He pleaded guilty. I told him, you can, if you want, you can plead guilty to that because it's 5 years. You're already there for 5 years. You see, so it doesn't make a difference. You can just plead, guilty. And then we just concentrate on the trafficking charge, you see. Now, in the trafficking charge, what happened was this. The judgment was he was carrying a large amount of drugs, 300 grams and all that. And I argued, we cannot simply say it's a large amount. Large must be relative to something else, isn't it? So how can you say, it's large amount? Then they said, by the time this thing came about, this trial came about, Section 37A has been amended and methamphetamine has already been included. But it cannot be used now.
This
because
happened in September.
Yeah. So they said, well, methamphetamine, according to the presumption of trafficking, is limited to 50 grams. Your client had 300. So it is therefore too much he is having. He cannot say that he was having it for personal consumption. If the 37DA is applicable, then he has he can be presumed to be a trafficker, and that's a rebuttable presumption. So you need to rebut that presumption, you see.
Because it's 6 times more than...
Yeah, 6 times more. But there were 2 things here, which is very good for the defense. What has happened is they were using the presumption of trafficking as a guidepost. Although it doesn't apply to you, but if the X now says it is 50, then we can infer that you are trafficking because you had 6 times more than what the presumption section 37DA says is trafficking. Now, 2 things you need to know. One is when trafficking is proved by way of presumption of law, the burden on the accused is to rebut it on a balance of probability. But if it is not, if the prosecution did not use or did not have the presumption available for them, then they can only ask the court to make an inference of trafficking. All right? For inference, the burden of rebutting is much, much, much lower than balance of probability, which is for the presumption of trafficking. When the presumption of trafficking does not apply, they only have to cast a reasonable doubt, which is not very difficult. All right? So, what happened here again is, in 1987-6, I think, there was a couple, a mother and daughter, Cohen, Lorraine, they were arrested with drugs, having a lot of drugs. And they took up, I think Karpal Singh, is one of the best criminal lawyers this country ever had. He argued the case. He said, this couple, they were not trafficking. They were this used for personal consumption. They came here on a holiday and they like this methamphetamine, or they eat heroin or something, some other drug. So, they are not trafficking, they are personal consumption. But Karpal Singh, being Karpal Singh, he went further. He said, he went and got medical evidence, he got them, their hands all was a lot of injection marks and all, So, I couldn't produce any injection marks because for methamphetamine, you don't inject. I brought in an expert, forensic expert, and the forensic expert said, I asked her, how, this one, can is possible, it takes 15 grams a day. He said, yeah, can 5 to 15, they will take normally. And how do you take it? He said, this one usually taken by, you put some on the spoon and then you put a burner down and the smoke come out. Inhale on it. I said, can it be injected? Yeah, he said, can be injected, but you'll die immediately.
The answer is yes. It can be injected.
Can be, but you
what
can...
it causes, death immediately.
Yeah. So, since he said that, I had to fight the submission of the prosecution. Prosecution said, what is he saying? Personal consumption? There are no marks. I said, there are no marks, so what? This is not taken this way. Different people take ganja, you just smoke it, okay? And others you inject, but this one you don't inject. You can't see any mark at all. But he had told the police during the investigation that this is personal consumption.
Initial statement that he gave
Initial
to the
statement within 2 days
itself,
of the arrest, he already told that.
which was later taken in as an evidence.
Of course, I attended
Exhibit.
that statement. Section 112 statement was standard, and asked the police, what did you, police IO, you know already, isn't it? He already told you this for personal. Did you do any investigation to disprove it? They didn't do.
But then none of these were actually considered by the judges in High Court at that time when you were fighting for this case, right? One of the charges, of course, it was already reduced to 12-2. That time you were okay with that, the one which was in the police station. But the one in Subang International Airport was still drug trafficking under 39B.
Yeah.
Argument with chemist. Then you spoke about the presumption, all this presumption, because the definition doesn't match. Even though the prosecution started stating that what does trafficking mean? It means all this, includes all these 18 verbs that is there. But you managed to tell the court, make them understand, make the judges understand that trafficking's definition has to come from the dictionary.
Yeah.
Not from these 18 verbs.
Yeah.
This is not the definition, but the definition includes these 18 verbs. You have already tried arguing from this point also, but then it's just like they don't seem to accept. Maybe I feel it is because of the total amount of drug that was seized was about 300 grams.
Which was tallies with
The consumption
the
of 15 grams per day for about 20 days.
No, what I'm saying is, it's the presumption that came out later said 50 grams possession is gives rise to the presumption of trafficking, which you have to rebut. So they use that as a guidepost to say that 300 is way above. So they went on that point,
Okay. So now High Court also already decided that this guy has to go under 39B even after defending him. If you want to fight further, you go to appeal court.
Yeah.
Correct? That is what happened.
Yeah. Court of Appeal, there were 3 judges at that time. And they listened to the thing and they said, first of all, they said the decision with respect to the police station lockup seizure is wrong. The trial judge has made a mistake. We want this case to be remitted back to the same judge and ask him to call for defense. We are setting aside the plea of guilty on that because it was prima facie stage. I don't know whether I explained it now. Prima facie stage is only the police witnesses, the prosecution's witnesses who have concluded the evidence. But if there is a case, prima facie case, then as I told you earlier, they have to call the accused to enter defense, which he can do by giving a sworn testimony at the witness box, or he can just sit wherever he's sitting at the dock and give an unsworn statement, or he can even remain silent. So
3 options.
he has 3 options. But in this case, we discussed it, and he said, okay, since the Court of Appeal has asked you to ordered your defense to be called, you just go and say what you already told in your Section 112 statement to the
Agus
police.
agreed to give a sworn statement.
Yeah, he wanted to give a sworn statement. And of course, he's listened to advice from lawyer. Right? So, sworn statement is very strong because he can corroborate it with his statement to the police, you see, Section 112 statement. He said, this is, I wasn't trafficking. I was just keeping this for my own self, and I was inhaling it by keeping it under the spoon and all that. So he said that. And
now, can I just interrupt a little bit? Is it true that if you're going to High Court and then you defend a case or something, and then the matter is brought to the appeal court of appeal, is it usually the judges in Court of Appeal will be like, we'll just continue with whatever happened in High Court. We are not going to change anything. Is it?
No, not in the Court of Appeal, Good question, you have asked. Usually what happens is this, when from High Court it goes to Court of Appeal, what happens is they take the thing, they say the High Court judge was doing the trial and he was looking at the face and demeanor of the witnesses and all that, whether they are telling the truth or they are not telling the truth. But when it goes to the Court of Appeal, those judges never saw the witnesses, never don't know anything about whether they are telling the truth or not, how when they delivered the testimonies. So on that score, the Court of Appeal won't go into
It's more like, I don't know the whole story, what actually happened. The judge in High Court would have known because he heard the whole case, trial from beginning until the end.
Yeah.
I don't want to suddenly come here and change things, so I will just follow whatever he has already given.
That's true.
But that makes the Court of Appeal meaningless.
No, it is meaningful because justice is not only for the accused or justice is not only for the prosecution. They are trained, senior judges. So they said, well, based on this, we don't see any reason why we should interfere with the decision of the High Court judge. They say that. Now, many cases, the Court of Appeal won't agree also. They'll say, the High Court judge was wrong, you see, and we acquit and we will reverse the decision of the... So then there will be further appeals to the federal court. And there in the federal court, there's a formula, So if you lost in the High Court and you lost in the Court of Appeal and go to the federal court, especially I think Gopal Sriram would used to say, you're 2-0 already, what? So federal court won't disturb so. But if High Court you lost in the High Court and Court of Appeal you won, it's 1-1.
Higher chances.
Higher chances. You see?
So in case of Agus, went to Court of Appeal,
lost.
And Court of Appeal
went back, asked him to go back and
go back to
So
defense.
Let me tell you what happened in the High Court when he went back. When it went back to the High Court, I could see the High Court judge, same judge, he seemed like very annoyed that they asked him to call for he looked very,
something like retrial.
Yeah, but this is only for calling the defense. So I put him on the stand, he took an oath and he started telling, this one is, I'm not trafficking, I'm using it for myself. I told them in my police statement or so, they didn't do anything. So, I'm not trafficking. So then very fast he finished, he went back and sat down. It was about 12:30 he finished. Then after that we submitted, quickly I want to hear your submission. I wasn't prepared with the submission. Normally courts will say, okay, give you another 1 month to go back and prepare your submission, But this judge was so angry, he said, I want to submit now. So I submitted lah. I said, this one is not trafficking. This one is simple case of personal consumption and all that, So, and it is also, the defense is available. In Supreme Court said in Cohen-Lawrence case, they also raised the personal consumption and they won. And then the case of
Teo Beng Ho.
Teh Beng, that one is wrong. It was already proved in the other case, Chow Kok Kyong, that it was wrongly decided. So you must not. So the judge, okay, fine, everything's over. So, and for the first time in my life, I've seen, normally the judge will postpone for another 2 months for him to write the judgment. He sat down there in the court for about a good 45 minutes writing his judgment. I've never seen that before. He was writing the judgment with a vengeance, because he was asked.
I kind of can predict what is the verdict after that.
I don't know. But something divine happened, About 1 o'clock, he started writing. The court was very quiet. I was hungry. But anyway, I stood there and I was sitting down and thinking he was going to finish. He went on. And this was the Shah Alam High Court, At about 1 o'clock, the silence was broken by a religious prayer from the Shah Alam Blue Mosque,
This was beautifully written in your novel. Hayya ala salah.
It's something of victory and all, translated.
Yeah.
So that, and in that, because of the distance of the court and the mosque also, and because it's such an expensive, very, $160 million mosque, the PA system also was very high quality, And the prayer was like very divine. The singer, the person was very divine. It was very soft. And this man, the judge, was writing his judgment, while that thing is going in the background. And I turned around and looked at Agus. Agus was praying. So after 45 minutes, the prayer was finished, put there. He read it out loud. He said, this is not a case of trafficking. This is a case of personal consumption. He had already informed this police investigating officer in his statement. Prosecution did not investigate this. And there was a case also, Alcantara Abur Sami versus public prosecutor. If the accused had given a statement so close to his arrest that what is the true fact, what is the purpose he did, it should have been, they should have at least taken his blood test and seen whether he has got any drugs in his system or not. I mean, nothing was done, So he said, acquitted and discharged. Wow. That was powerful, That prayer also came there, I don't know how to explain this, but it was a divine moment.
Momentary thing that happened during that time when the silence.
The man's life was at stake,
So now Agus had 2 charges. One is 12-2, for which he has already served more than 5 years at that time.
Yeah.
When this judgment was given.
Yeah.
And then this judge said that the 39B is also just for personal consumption. Correct?
No, that judge, the Subang Airport, he said he convicted him. The trial judge convicted him for the Subang Airport. Only this police station one, he acquitted him. He said, I don't think he have any intention of trafficking in the lockup. Because of the mistake made by the prosecution in separating the charges like that. So
it becomes a bit more difficult.
Yeah.
But then even during appeal, even the prosecution also appealed.
Yeah.
That is the reason for this judgment, right? Because prosecution also appealed that whatever that you have already reduced from 39B to 12-2 should actually be brought back to 39B.
Yeah. So that's why there was a retrial.
The retrial. So that is why they say, no, this is just for self-consumption. I mean, for the consumption.
Yeah.
For which he said it stays as 12-2 for one of the charges, which is the Subang Airport.
Yeah. Subang
For
Airport.
the Damansara police station. For the Subang Airport, it is still drug trafficking.
Yes.
And it stays at 39B.
Exactly.
For which at this moment, Agus don't know whether he should be happy because the judge actually agreed with the charges of 12-2 for one, which is the Damansara police station. But then the other charge, which is mandatory death penalty.
Yeah. High Court
remains
had
the
already
same.
given him a mandatory death sentence for the drugs seized in the airport. And when it went to Court of Appeal, also they dismissed his appeal and said, yes, you were trafficking. So we appealed to the federal court. The federal court, there was
No. Next, it goes to the federal court.
Yeah.
Now to the federal court, in High Court, it's already basically prosecution managed to establish the case and proven the prima facie in the case. And then one charge is 39B, another one is 12-2. Went to appeal court, tried to reduce the 39B to 12-2. But prosecution tried to increase from 12-2 to 39B.
Yeah.
And then the judge again retrial in High Court. The judge said no, 12-2 remains as 12-2. 39B remains as 39B.
No. It's not that. The High Court, in the first place, there were two 39B. Okay, both
Yes.
airport and lockup. But at the end of prima facie case, as far as the lockup one, judge had reduced it to mere possession. And he pleaded guilty. When it went to Court of Appeal, they said, no, you made a mistake by reducing
it to 12-2.
You called for defense on trafficking. Okay, you called for defense on trafficking. So they called for defense on trafficking. He came and gave evidence on trafficking, and the judge said, okay, I've called for defense on trafficking, and I find that he was not trafficking. I'm acquitting and discharging him.
Okay.
So that police station one was done. But when it went back to when it went back to from there to
Federal court.
Both the charges didn't go. Both the convictions didn't go. 12-2, one was already gone, isn't it?
Yeah, because he finished his sentence basically.
Yeah. So the thing is, only the airport thing went to federal court.
Okay, now the federal court is only one charge.
Yeah.
39B.
39B.
So what happened in federal court, we shall discuss after this.
Yeah.
In Chill and Chai with Dr. A. Kembali semula dalam Chill and Chai with Dr. A. Now, Agus adalah seorang lelaki dari Indonesia yang datang ke Malaysia untuk bercuti dan juga pada masa yang sama untuk tujuan bisnes. Dan selepas sampai ke Malaysia, Agus telah membeli methamphetamine berjumlah lebih kurang 500 gram in total. Sewaktu meninggalkan Malaysia untuk pulang semula ke Indonesia kerana anaknya tidak sihat, Agus telah ditahan di Subang International Airport. Dan di Subang International Airport, mereka mendapati bahawa Agus mempunyai lebih kurang 200 plus gram methamphetamine. Agus dibawa ke Damansara Police Station, Balai Polis Damansara, di mana baju dan seluarnya telah dibuka dan didapati bahawa 300 lagi gram methamphetamine dijumpai di bahagian belakang badannya. Now, sekarang Agus telah di-charge di High Court untuk 2 separate cases dan kedua-duanya membawa hukuman gantung sampai mati. Kes ni telah dibicarakan di High Court dan pergi ke Court of Appeal, dan salah satu chargesnya 39B yang mana sejumlah 300 gram methamphetamine yang ditemui di Balai Polis Damansara itu telah dikurangkan daripada 39B ke 12-2, yang mana telah dibicarakan semula di High Court kerana pihak prosecution tidak berpuas hati macam mana 39B boleh jadi 12-2, dan even sewaktu retrial, judge telah mengatakan bahawa tidak. Dadah yang ditemui sewaktu inspection di Balai Polis adalah untuk personal consumption dan kes ni telah selesai sebab 12-2 dan Agus telah menjalani hukuman sepenuhnya, actually lebih daripada yang sepatutnya, kerana di bawah Akta 12-2 membawa hukuman penjara tidak melebihi 5 tahun. Now, masih tinggal satu lagi charge, iaitu 39B, yang mana dadah yang telah disita sewaktu Agus ada di Subang International Airport, dan hakim masih berpendapat bahawa niat Agus adalah untuk trafficking. Apa yang berlaku di federal court sekarang?
Yeah. So in the federal court, there were 5 judges, and I put up the same arguments. I said that the trial judge and court of appeal judge had erred by using the presumption of trafficking under 37DA when it was not enforced at the time
For
he was
methamphetamine.
arrested for methamphetamine. And anyway, they made an inference. If they made an inference, then what I had to say, because they relied so much on the decision of Cohen Lorraine, because they said if you want to bring in personal consumption, you should be able to prove the marks and all that. But I said, no, we can't show that because he never injected himself. He was just, what do you call?
Because you can't. Because you have already proven that by bringing in an expert witness.
Exactly.
Whom stated that methamphetamine, if you inject it will cause death. So the only way to consume methamphetamine is by oral consumption.
Exactly.
Or smoking it.
Exactly.
Which is the method that memang Agus was using.
Yes. So, but I pointed out to them federal court that prosecution has a duty to investigate this police statement that he had given, that he is taking these things on a regular basis.
Which is also part of the exhibit at that moment, because you have already put that as an evidence also.
Yeah.
And then there was no medical examination done during after the police arrest.
Exactly. I said they should have examined him to find out whether he has been taking, since he claimed to be taking 15 and he was grams a day, and the statement was taken about 3 days after his arrest, he'll still be in his body, you see. So they could have done something. Nothing was done.
But now it's too late. He was arrested in 1999. Now it's 2005.
Exactly.
When the case is
Came
at
to
the
federal
level
court.
of federal court.
Yeah. So federal court heard everything.
5 judges, huh?
5 judges. One of them the chairman was Augustine Paul, He's also, well-known judge. And having heard everything, they allowed the appeal and let him go.
So it has been 7 years that Agus was
Yeah, it was
in
a lesson
prison.
to him. Don't take this too lightly. Yeah? I think, I never heard from him after that.
And I also read in the novel that, sometimes when after going through so much in life, he was in prison for 7 years.
Yeah.
Every day he must be thinking about death sentence.
Exactly.
Because that is the charge. Actually, the
Yes.
punishment for the charges is mandatory death sentence.
Yeah.
But then at the level of federal court, in front of 5 judges, when the 5 judges accepted the defense appeal,
Yeah.
that states that it is not for trafficking, but it is for personal consumption.
Yeah.
And Agus was out. Something that you stated in the novel, that the word thank you is something that is abused oftenly, because you keep saying thank you, thank you, thank you for everything, and you expect Agus to come and say thank you to you, but that is not something that happened at that moment.
Yeah.
Because I think there's no word that can be described at that particular moment
Yeah.
when he is out
Yeah.
of that sentence.
Yeah.
What did Agus actually told you at that moment?
I think I can't remember him saying anything, but he took my hand and I could see his eyes was welling up, and he appeared so grateful. I think he couldn't express the gratitude. He couldn't express because words, are not sufficient to express that kind of gratitude where you have been released from death sentence.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, have you been in touch with Agus after that? Has he contacted
Well,
you?
yeah, no, actually, I've been very busy throughout the 90s. Now I'm more free. But, I think once or twice he called me. Called me and we spoke.
It's fantastic. So, it is important why this podcast is we wanted to talk about the story of Agus as a man who was caught and charged and then later was released in federal court with a much more smaller charges because he has already undergone 7 years in prison. But then the other thing is also important to know your right for the people out there if there is something in law. Why do you need a lawyer? There is always a reason why you need a lawyer. Even though we have discussed in the previous episode, in episode 1, where I asked you a question, can you actually defend yourself in the court of law? And you said, take your sword and fight in the court. But then coming back to why do you actually need a lawyer in the court of law is because of the experience and the knowledge of the lawyer. He can actually fight for the case because he won't look at it from one perspective, but he will actually look at it from multiple perspective. This is something very beautiful, and I feel this case is very important and very personal because I've seen personally my friends or family members who underwent this drug kind of charges and how they are released later on, and how important it is to have a very good lawyer with you at all times. Because anytime, anywhere, you can be put into trouble or you can be put or be caught because of something that you didn't do. So thank you so much, Mr. Vijay.
My pleasure.
It's been a pleasure talking to you always, It's not really like talking to a lawyer, but talking to a poet.
Poet?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Because your novel, when you read the novel that is written by Mr. T. Vijayendran, it is more poetic and it makes you understand and it makes you want to understand law even more further. Thank you so much, Mr. Vijay.
My pleasure.
Hopefully I will be calling Mr. Vijay more and more times. But thank you so much. You are very kind.
Thank you.
And the way you fight for cases and stuff, it's amazing. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Chill and Chai with Dr. A.